together. We are here to talk about budgeting and planning for the new year. I'm delighted to welcome two new guest speakers to the program. Alison Richmond, SVP of Marketing Services, and Lori Blanford, VP of Client Marketing. Lori and Alison are with ClearEdge Marketing, a leading marketing agency and a wonderful gold member of the RPOA since 2020. I'm looking forward to their insights about the topic today. Without any further ado, I'd like to pass it to Alison and Lori to introduce themselves and share their presentation.
Thank you so much for that lovely welcome, Lamise. And we're so grateful for your partnership and to be here with the wonderful RPOA community today. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day, joining us on Zoom, and to anyone joining via LinkedIn Live as well. September is here and it is busy, we know, but it's such an important time to get ahead of your budgeting and planning. So we're really thrilled to have this next 30 minutes to help set you up for success in 2024. Before Lori and I dive in, I wanted to give a brief introduction to myself and a little bit more of an overview for ClearEdge. So as you heard, my name is Alison Richmond. I am the SVP of Marketing Services at ClearEdge. I have been in marketing for just over 20 years, working primarily in-house roles for both large staffing firms and tech startups. Here at ClearEdge, I have the pleasure of managing our industry's most experienced and passionate marketing team. ClearEdge is an organization dedicated to transforming the business of talent through 3 divisions. We have an executive search function that fills cornerstone marketing leadership roles like CMOs and VPs of marketing. We also have a wonderful division called ClearEdge Rising that focuses on accelerating career growth for women leaders in the talent and HR tech space. And then, of course, we have our ClearEdge Marketing founding division of the organization. We provide strategic guidance and marketing solutions to teams and organizations like yourselves. So in my role, I get to work with marketing innovators and strategists just like Lori to support recruiting, staffing, and HR tech businesses, build revenue generating and relationship building marketing programs. So I want to turn it over to Lori.
Thanks, Alison. My name is Lori Blanford. I've been in the talent and tech industries for over 25 years now. My experience includes leading marketing at a staffing agency, a VMS product, and at an IT consulting company. I moved over to the agency side when joining ClearEdge about 7 years ago. And as VP of Client Marketing, I oversee a fantastic portfolio of talent industry clients.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lori. Well, we're ready to dive into our topic. And as I said, it's such an important time for marketing plans and programs. And Lori, really, what do you think is kicking off this season?
Absolutely. Well, with summer's end comes fall and marketing budget season, and it's likely many of you are beginning to have these conversations. Now, while submitting a proposed budget is typically how it works, we do hear from clients in the industry that in some cases budgets are provided to them and they must work within those budgets. So rather than an opportunity to propose a budget that takes into account program performance and business goals, they're given a budget determined by the CFO or other leaders in the organization. It's not ideal, and the good news is that we're seeing less of this. But really, it's so critical that marketing leaders have a seat at the table, so to speak. They should be looked at as business partners and involved in the financial conversations early in the process. And for marketers, now is the time to start assessing 2023 and planning for 2024.
So true. And I think it's such an exciting time to see businesses across the sector really embrace marketing and give them that seat at the table, knowing that is not just about showcasing the brand. Well, that is such an important role. It's also about driving growth. The talent industry is rapidly advancing its marketing capabilities, and I think the audience today is eager to continue to dive into that philosophy of marketing, having a clear seat at the table, specifically with RPOs, where you not only need great marketers and growth drivers for your business, but you also need exceptional marketing to build and drive your employment brands.
Absolutely. And I know we're speaking to the choir here in a lot of ways when it comes to the value of marketing. We get asked a lot about what a marketing budget should be. Now, across most industries and businesses of various sizes, marketing budgets tend to be in the range of 8 to 12% of company revenue. Now, since COVID, we're seeing slightly smaller budgets. Gartner's 2023 CMO survey found that marketing budgets now comprise about 9% of revenues in 2023. And that's down from pre-COVID when that number was 11% of revenue. Now, for our industry, the size of marketing budgets does tend to be less. We're seeing some businesses investing only 5 to 8% of revenue in marketing. Again, this is something that's starting to change as the talent industry begins to embrace the value of marketing and viewing it as a growth vehicle versus an expense. Now, while the industry is evolving when it comes to marketing budget, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's become easier for marketers. If you feel pressure, you're not alone. You might relate to this stat. That CMO survey from Gartner focuses on the pressure marketing teams are facing. And in fact, 75% of CMOs said they're facing increased pressure to do more with less to deliver growth. And that's why we're here with you all today. We're going to talk about how to build a smart and thoughtful marketing budget now that will produce a business case for your marketing plans and deliver performance in 2024. So Alison, I'm going to turn it back over to you to tackle how to get started in the budgeting process.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think there's a really important part for where you start, and that is with your revenue targets. So marketing efforts and goals need to be aligned to the broader goals of the business. That means talking to your finance teams and using that conversation as the foundation of your strategy. It's so critical to understand the why of those revenue targets as well. And for that, you'll really want to also spend time with your CEO or president and the visionary leaders that are really driving those goals. And take a step back and understand what's really driving the business and how marketing can be part of that conversation from the start. And so once you know those business goals and the why behind it, it's important to align with sales. Nothing's more important than marketing and sales alignment. And so working together to define the targets and the timing under those broader business goals will really set you up for success. For some of our clients, we know that revenue goals, business vision, and sales strategies are already widely discussed and shared. In other cases, marketing may need to lead the conversation to make sure that they have that understanding and that they're building a plan that reflects that and approaches all of those. So don't be afraid, to our marketing colleagues out there, to start asking those questions early and drive the conversation so you're prepared to build your budget and your priorities for the entire year ahead. I'd say, Lori, anything else you want to share on that part of the process?
Yeah, I'd like to remind everyone that really in marketing, the best way forward requires a look back. We know that marketing requires a lot of experimentation and analysis, and really your marketing plan should come out of the successes you've had and the lessons you've learned. So now's the time to start assessing the performance of campaigns in 2023 so you can determine where to scale, where to cut back, and where you may want to try something new. So many of us marketers live by our metrics and our data, but if you have taken a step back from that reporting, now's the time to jump back in and see what channels paid off, what media performed well, what tools were effective, and so on. It's also a great time to review your ICP. Now, that's your ideal customer profile. And for those of you who don't have that in place yet, now is definitely the time to do that. So look at the new clients that you gained in 2023. Have they met revenue expectations? Did they meet your ICP status? Is your ICP that you have in place now reflective of the business and your growth plans and where marketing should be focused? And then finally, we want to focus on the greatest successes you've had throughout the year. So note those, note the strategies behind them, and determine the best way to replicate them in 2024. So again, it's that look back. Conversely, we want to look at what didn't work out well. So what was it and why was it? Maybe it's a new tool that the team struggled to adopt, or it's a campaign theme that missed the mark. Were there programs that the sales team didn't embrace? So with all that marketing performance data and the business strategy that you have in place for 2024, the next step would be, and Alison, I'll turn it over to you for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just want to add a little bit on campaign performance, I think, because it really is an exercise in determining where to scale. And as you said, where should you invest more? Where should you pilot something new? So I think when you have those clear KPIs already in place and you can look back, that is so fantastic. But we know that that's not always the case, depending on how the year has gone. It's also a really great time to really dive into where your clients were acquired. And specifically, sometimes we think about marketing as holding that incredibly important assist role. So focusing on alignment once again to get that insight and create that plan moving forward is so critical. So once you have all of that information, you're armed with everything you need to start building your marketing budget. You've got the expectations and goals of the business. You've got the clear vision from your leadership team, how you're going to partner with sales. And now you're ready to dive in. So what happens now, right? Now you've got a budget spreadsheet, lots of information in front of you. It's really important to structure your budget against those growth goals, as we mentioned, but also to find ways to demonstrate the anticipated results. If it's a new program that you're pitching as well, make sure that you've done the research. The more real world examples that you have, if it is something you believe in to move forward with, because as much as you want to scale and use what's worked in the past, marketing is all about trying something new and driving new activities that are going to essentially build your brand and drive that revenue. So whether it's the tools and the programs that you already know are effective or those new ways, it's important time to not just put the numbers out there, but to tell those stories about those numbers. Laura, anything you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, I think you covered that thoroughly. I think it's manageable when we think about it as a 1, 2, 3 process. So as Alison mentioned, know the revenue and the business goals, know what worked and what didn't, and know where you want to stretch to meet growth goals that align with the business goals. And then you're informed and you have a vision that you can use to tackle budgeting. So we've covered the to-dos, and now let's take a look at some of the budgeting pitfalls to avoid.
Great point.
All right.
I'll let you take it away.
All right. So these are a few of the more common pitfalls to watch out for. First, we talked a little bit about the budget and what percentage of revenue that should be. And as part of this, it's important to understand what exactly falls underneath the marketing budget. So there tends to be some gray areas, and it differs by organization and how budgets are set up. But examples of those gray areas tend to include client entertainment or business development expenses, things like that. So it's really best not to be surprised over the course of the year and define those things up front. Next, determine how ad hoc items will be handled throughout the year. So inevitably, some priorities are going to shift, some new needs may arise. How will those be handled and accommodated in the marketing budget? And the third one that we tend to see happen often is overlooking paid ad spend as part of the budget. So marketing budgets can be tricky in that you don't know the exact spend you're going to have as part of your paid ad programs until those programs are actually in place. But we do encourage you to forecast thoughtfully and know and anticipate that those ad prices and ad costs are going to go up each year. So take a look at your paid ad programs, make sure you account for paid ad spend in your budget, and you'll be in good shape. Alison, anything else you'd like to add here?
I think you're spot on those comments, Lori, and specifically on the paid ads and ad hoc spending reminds me to think about the budget as negotiable. A lot can change in market conditions as the year goes on. And so it's so critical that as you're creating your budget, you have those programs that needs to have, nice to have. And then also as the year progresses, market conditions change, you can also go back and pitch those programs again. So the real message here is don't give up if all your programs don't land in your budget to start.
Yeah, I love that point. It actually nicely aligns with the last point we'd like to cover. So how do you rebound when your budget comes in lower than you'd hope for, right? So like many of the CMOs Gartner surveyed, what should we do when asked to do more with less? And Alison has some guidance for us there.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't all get our dream budget, as I just mentioned. So I think it's about resetting those expectations is so critical. We talked about alignment early on and setting up the process and the plan to those revenue goals and to the business goals overall. You put forth a budget that you believe in, and if you don't receive the full budget approval, you've got to make sure that you're clearing, realigning on expectations, right? So that everyone knows you can rally your team, rally your agency partners, and your executive organization around what's really going to stick in the year ahead. And I think that this alignment is so critical. I would just add focus on one to three goals that everyone can unify around. A lot of time in marketing, we think about the tactics, and those tactics are critical, but having that vision and making sure that everything in the tactics, is setting back up to those goals is really what's going to set you up for success and make sure that you're maximizing not just your budget dollars, but also your own time. Anything else to add there, Lori?
I think you covered it. Yeah. Aligning with the business goals and having a strategy, those are two really critical elements to successful budget planning.
So then with that, we hope we've given you some good tips here today. I think the biggest takeaway is build that story. You know, don't be afraid to try something new, align with the business, and keep pushing forward with clear expectations on what's possible with the budget you've been given. With that, we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions. We'd love to open it up to the group.
Very good. So let me come off mute here and share a question that came from our audience on Zoom. Tim is asking, do you have examples of campaigns which are more successful than others? Probably a little too general, but either Lori or Alison, do you want to share some examples of successful marketing campaigns?
You want me to take that one, Lori, or do you have
okay? We can alternate. I'll have you jump in.
Sounds good. I think it's such a great question, and I hate to use this answer, but I'm going to start with it, and bear with me. I'll give you some background, but it really depends. It depends on where you're at in your marketing funnel, and it depends on where you're at with your goals. So we believe strongly in the rule of 7, that it takes 7 times in 7 ways to connect with your audience, especially when you're at top of funnel. So that becomes, again, back to the question, where are you in the funnel, and how can you create that campaign and really focus on an integrated marketing approach, pulling those levers of content and email and paid ads and crafting something that meets you where you're at.
Awesome. I love this rule of 7. I didn't hear that before, but that is a good tip as well. You mentioned in your presentation the process of looking at the revenue performance and budget and doing this. Your recommendation is doing this in the fall ahead of the coming year. Is this once and done, or is this process something you want to revisit throughout the year, and how often, if you're going to revisit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is not one and done. It is absolutely an ongoing process. And through the process of establishing your KPIs and determining how you're going to measure the performance of marketing, that's something that you do want to keep an eye on, whether it's through a monthly reporting program or a quarterly reporting program. But it's absolutely something that we're assessing on a regular basis. And that's because we make adjustments in marketing all the time. So we have this opportunity to make tweaks in a campaign, change messaging up a little bit, and see how we can improve the performance of the efforts and the tactics that we're using as part of the program.
Thank you. One other question as well. If you haven't measured marketing programs before, and I assume a few companies don't, how can you build a marketing plan that will deliver results?
That is a really great question. I think this is where it's time to do some research, talk to your agency partners, understand what's out there, what's worked. As I mentioned, it does depend on the type of campaign that you want to build together, but there's a lot of great resources. And specifically, we guide our clients all the time on, given what we know about their goals, what they can actually expect. Of course, there is, again, a lot of variable in that, but we're really here to partner with organizations to help them understand how to scale and how to build programs that meet their goals. But Google's also your friend. There's a lot of great, we like Gartner. There's so many great publications out there that you can also learn from if you're unable to have a partner on your side.
Excellent. Next question, what kind of tools and data should be used to build budgets year over year for marketing? Any recommendations on tools and data?
Yeah, I'd say whatever data is available that's relevant to sales and revenues and the sales process itself. So whatever historical data coming from a CRM or whatever platform is in place to manage and measure sales, any financial data that's available to marketing, market research, as Alison mentioned, customer data, customer satisfaction data, for example, leveraging all of the analytics tools that you're using and are available, such as Google Analytics, any tools that you're using to measure social media performance, for example, looking at your various advertising channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, et cetera. And then also input from your teams is so critical. So keeping that open line of communication, not only with business leaders, so you can pivot the marketing plan and efforts as needed to align with changes that are happening in the business, but also that open communication and open dialogue that needs to happen with sales so that you're working as a team to achieve those revenue goals. It's so critical.
I might add to that, Lori, too, just before you even think about some of the tools, is get really clear on your KPIs. What are you trying to track? Are you, we've talked a lot about alignment, but how do we connect those pieces, and what do you and marketing need to track as your key metrics for success? And then how do they align up to the other business goals, those ones that you want to report out? I always think it's important in marketing. We've got a dashboard we're looking at regularly that helps us on the journey. And then there's those specific, perhaps more unified KPIs that you also want to drive forward. And based on what you're trying to track is really going to help you define how to track it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So we're getting a few good questions from the audience. I want to say I'm going to pass along the general questions on the call today. The more specific ones I'm going to pass to Alison and Lori to take more offline after the call. The next question is from Aaron, and he's asking if you could speak to how budgeting may change for smaller RPOs who combine sales and marketing within the same budget. I like that one.
Yeah, I guess I can kick that one off by saying I think it starts with some of those KPIs and the real focus on marketing and sales alignment is so critical. And so when you have a budget that needs to combine them, the benefit is you've got some unification up front in exactly what you need to achieve. But the challenge is, how do you break it down, right? How do you know what sales is going to deliver on within that budget and marketing? And I think it comes within your budget format, quite candidly, to really break down, different events that you may have marketing leading, but have a clear sales component and sales driver, and then those campaigns that need to cover both. So I think it's more critical than ever when you have those small budgets to really get just aligned on the goals that you have and how you want that spend to be connected to those goals.
The next question I feel you touched on in your presentation when you talked about budgeting for the year and some tools and programs that might not make your budget this year. And you said, don't be afraid to come back and propose them or revisit them. So a question from Don is, can you share any insights on how to incorporate AI tools into a marketing budget?
Oh, AI, that's a big topic, isn't it? It can be a powerful tool to use. I mean, the good news is that there are several AI tools that are free that could be incorporated into your process. They are a great tool for research. As far as paid tools and evaluating those, I think establishing the business case, really understanding where those tools can have impact, what their potential return on investment is. Those would be things that I'd be thinking about at this point, and really prioritizing what tools can have the best and the greatest impact on the business.
Very good. So one more, because we're getting to the end of our time here. And this is a good question as well. How long does it take an organization to build a marketing plan on average?
That on average part really comes into play here. I would say at least a month, but really 4 to 6 weeks is probably that realistic sweet spot of spending time to gather all of the right information, to create the presentation and the story, as well as the actual budget. And then that's when you submit it. And then I think there's a second phase of that budget of what the numbers come back at and what's approved for that. You probably need at least another 2 to 4 weeks for.
Oh, I see, Lori, you're shaking your head, so you're agreeing with with the answer as well.
I would agree. Yeah, the more sophisticated the business, the longer the plan will take, because you want to do more research up front, and you'll have more assessment to do as part of that planning. But typically for smaller businesses or that have a very target audience, we do see about a month.
Thank you. So we're going to wrap up. For people who have additional questions or maybe want to learn more about ClearEdge Marketing and how we might help them with their, whether it's a staffing or an RPO agency, would you mind dropping your contact information or ClearEdge contact information in the chat, please? And on LinkedIn, I'm going to ask our helpers on LinkedIn to do the same. So thank you for that. Thank you. So before we close, I do have a few announcements from the RPOA, and we always have some new audiences. So whether you've been with us on one of these webinars or this is your first time, thank you for being here today. If you're not familiar with the Recruitment Process Outsourcing Association, we are a member-driven and mission-driven organization serving the global RPO ecosystem and striving to be the place to go for RPO. The ecosystem consists of anyone in talent acquisition with interest in RPO, whether it's RPO providers, buyers, technology platforms, HR consultants, analysts, and we also like academics. Our mission is to nurture a collaborative community where thought leadership can be created and curated to educate the marketplace about RPO. Our corporate members and technology sponsors provide the primary funding for the association. Our community membership is free and open to anyone interested in talent acquisition. We also have some strategic partners that add value to our associations. These include Everest Group, IDC, Lighthouse Research, and Clearly Rated. The RPOA produces educational content in collaboration with our corporate members and sponsors. Our content is focused on talent acquisition trends and best practices for the talent acquisition community. We host 2 active blogs, produce a monthly newsletter, and 2 webinar programs. First, the RPO Leadership Forum. It's a monthly webinar series typically scheduled for the 3rd Tuesday of each month. Today's webinar is part of the RPO Leadership Forum. These are typically 30-minute webinars presented by RPOA members. Our upcoming webinar is on the 19th of this month with Advanced RPO. You can find upcoming events on our RPOA website under the Events tab. The second webinar program is the RPOA Expert Panel. We typically produce 3 to 4 expert panels a year. I want you to save the date for our the next expert panel will be in October on October 26th, and it will be on Total Talent. You can access webinars recorded on the RPO Academy on the RPOA website at rpoassociation.org. We're also excited to announce the launch of Time to Hire. It's a new podcast based on the content from our webinar programs. Lori and Alison talked about the 7-point rule. This is an implementation or example of that. What we're doing is taking our webinars, so you can watch it live and also on demand. In addition, you can now listen to the webinars on the go via Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Fountain, and other podcast platforms. So we invite you to subscribe to Time to Hire and stay informed of all new podcasts. Lastly, I want to invite you to our premium event of the year and the only place you'll meet the largest community of people passionate about RPO. That is our annual conference. This year, we are hosting the event again in Chicago on September 24th through the 26th. That's coming up soon. Registration is still open until September 18th. We'd love for you to join us there. So with this brief overview of the RPOA, I'd like to conclude today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I invite you to stay connected, stay engaged, and stay informed of what's happening in the talent and RPO world by tuning into the RPOA, the place to go for RPO. I want to thank Alison and Lori and our helpers at ClearEdge Marketing. It's been wonderful working with you both.
Thank you, Lamise. Look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you both. And I want to thank our audience and hope to see you in an upcoming event from the RPOA.